Welcome to the dumbest smart guy podcast on the planet. This is the Central Unintelligence Podcast.
What a good fucking, what a strange time to be alive. I'm Josh, and welcome to the Central Unintelligence Podcast, which is probably the stupidest thing you'll ever listen to, but, I mean, there's
it's
like...
fucking genius.
There's sprinkles of, there's truth mixed in. There's a lot of truth mixed in, but we're just, maybe I'm just an idiot. We're just idiots, I don't know. You're right, it's true genius, I suppose. Anyways, I'm Josh, here today with good buddy Adam.
Yes, indeed.
And we're going to give you some updates on the whole world situation because it's been, 4 days now since we did the last episode. And now, some things have happened, but also in other fronts, not a lot has fucking happened. So we'll get to that in just a second. But before we do...
I think we're overdue for a beach day episode of life.
That is true. We do need a beach day episode, or it's a hot springs episode is what we need.
But if you want to learn more about beach days... You fucking turn into the Anime Syndicate podcast.
Oh, yeah, because if you love anime, boy, howdy, have we got a goddamn podcast for you.
Yeah, and especially if you love Monster Girl Doctor, I'm sure there's a fucking heap of episodes that are probably beached, even though it's set in the medieval times or whatever bullshit.
I mean...
I will say, though, the most intriguing parts of the anime, I haven't even fucking seen it, but I was listening to the podcast because I was like, fuck it, might as well listen.
Yeah.
That shit did bother me that there was a 100-year war between...
That was the most ridiculous
I was
part.
like, how the fuck did you pass this up?
They didn't even fucking get into it. They just blurbed it at the beginning or like whatever, and then that was it. And I'm like, that's the most interesting part of the story. But anyways, if you want to hear more about that, yeah, go to GameRageMagazine.com. And you can hear all about it on the Anime Syndicate podcast. You can also go to Instagram and TikTok at Game Rage Magazine, Twitter/X at Game Rage Mag, even on YouTube, Game Rage Magazine, and you can see clips from all the shows that we put out, and you can hear us talk about things. And the most recent clip is the Monster Girl Doctor episode, because that's the most recent episode for the Anime Syndicate. If you want to follow Adam, you can go to that's Frank's. If you want to go to follow Adam, it's All Gas No Trash Official on Instagram. And then go listen to the All Gas No Trash podcast when you're done listening to the Anime Syndicate, and listen to us talk shit about music and musical bands and things of that nature. All right, now that that's out of the way, before I go upon my tirade of things, do you have anything to bring up?
No, other than that I've seen, what is it, Ukraine War Report on the subreddit. Just seeing swaths of people surrendering to the Ukraine army in Kursk. I don't know if these soldiers that are being put out are competent. And apparently there was like a convoy that the Russians shot at their own.
Yeah, they killed their own fucking convoy.
I'm like, dude, you can't write this shit better than...
You can't make this up.
You can't fucking make this up, dude.
And I will say this, that historically, we'll start with the Ukraine since you brought that up, but historically the Red Army, well, we're just going to call them the Red Army because fuck them, they're still commies at heart, all right? So the Red Army, the Russian army, has historically been largely incompetent as a fighting force. But because they have so many people, it kind of doesn't fucking matter. There's just so many dudes you can throw, and then tactics are irrelevant at that point. So
I think at some point it will matter because there will be a number of people that will be upset about the number of deaths and the morale, because it seems like the morale is getting to the Russian conscripts or whatever, because this is probably a war they don't want to fight, but if they don't, they're gonna be fucking dead. It's like, oh, fuck it, I might as well be a fucking prisoner with the Ukrainians than fucking go back to Russia.
Right, so I also think that this incursion, we're going to call it an incursion because it's not a fucking invasion into the Russia from Ukraine. this incursion into Russian territory, I don't think this is going to end well for the Ukrainians because.
But they're building trenches. They're digging their feet in, dude.
But listen, you'll see right now. So they've committed 10,000 men and infantry vehicles and tanks and shit to this incursion, right? That's what they have currently committed there, roughly. Okay. There are large estimates that obviously the real number of casualties that the Ukrainians have taken in this war it varies widely on both sides. Both sides lie. Listen, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that because deception is warfare, right?
It is.
So I'm gonna obviously lie about how many guys you're killing to make myself look better and maybe make it look like you aren't doing so good of a job, and maybe you guys are like, fuck, how are we losing so many guys and these guys are losing not that many, right? So in terms of the casualties of what people are, or what the real number is, killed and wounded, you're looking at the numbers that are kind of out there are 500,000 on the Ukrainian side. All right. Killed and wounded. So guys that are no longer able to fight, or I should say individuals that are no longer allowed or no longer combat effective because they've been killed or wounded. The real estimate is closer to 750,000. The true number is as I've been told and I've seen by some Pentagon reports and some things like that, some back channel things, that the real number's higher, which makes sense because obviously you don't want to make it known to what your casualty. You want to make it sound bad, but you don't want to make it be like the truth, right? So I believe that it's closer probably to 750,000 troops, right? Well, the Ukraine doesn't have that large of a population of essential combat effective individuals, right? People that are in the prime combat military fighting age. The Russians obviously have a much larger population. So if you're going to invade Russia, you're not going to do it with dickheads. You're not going to do it with mostly conscripts. You're probably not going to do it with mostly inexperienced individuals. You're likely going to do it with some of your top tier assets that you have, right? Some of your best infantry battalions or companies. You're probably going to do it with some special forces units. You're probably going to do it with those types of things, which I imagine is what they did. So again, if you look historically, the Russians, they love to do this. I forget what the actual name of the tactic is, but it's this thing that they love to do, where what they will do is they will let you keep penetrating into their lines, and they continually fall back. And they fall back and they fall back until, you got 10,000 guys, and sure, maybe the first force you encountered was maybe a few hundred. Maybe it was, I don't know. Then the next force you face maybe is 1,000. Maybe then it's 5,000. But they keep falling back. They lose some, and then eventually the Russians, as you are incurring into their country, they keep falling back and falling back and falling back, and then adding the fallback to a larger number force, and it keeps compounding and getting bigger and bigger. And they did this during World War II. It was very effective when the Nazis would push forward with Blitzkrieg. It was a great counter to Blitzkrieg because, you're lightning fast through into the country, and you're kind of trying to catch people off guard. But the fallback defense is essentially the great counter, because eventually when you push too far, your numbers are going to be a little more thinned out. And then what the Russians would do is they'd say, oh, maybe there's a force of 2,000 guys that now took this town that's now the new front line from the Russians. Well, what the Russians will do is that fallback force has 25,000 guys in it. So what they'll do is they'll send out 2 fucking pincers on each side of this town, and they will envelop the town with, let's say you have, 2,000 guys, they'll envelop it with 10. And then they will cut you off, and then eventually they will just attrition warfare and just bleed you out until you guys are all dead or captured. And then what they'll do is they'll go up to the next line and they'll do the same exact thing, and they'll just encircle you and they cut you off from supply. And this, like I said, this tactic worked very well in World War II. And I think it's a very viable tactic that if the Russians are smart, they will employ this today. This is how you stop the incursion of the Ukraine into your country. Is you do this circle envelopment tactic and you cut them off, and then cool, you take these guys all down, then you move on to where the next line is, and you do the same thing, and you just rinse and repeat until eventually what's going to happen is once they do eventually push the Ukrainians back, or once they push the line back to the border and back into the Ukraine, by that point they won't be stopping. They're just going to continue all the way basically until they march to Kyiv, which should have been their fucking thing that they did on day one when they started the invasion. Now it's been 2.5 years or whatever at this point. But it's very plausible that I think this move by the Ukrainians was kind of like their last-ditch effort.
No, I think it's insulting to the Ukrainians that you think that they would just fall for that. Like they don't have a history book or they don't have resources to understand the tactics that Russians have used in the past. Not to say that they will use them currently or they are going to. I mean, I'm sure they're assessing the situation as it happens, and they're not just going to haphazardly stumble their way to fucking the capital of Russia. It's going to be hopefully well thought out to the point that it's going to be threatening to Russia that they don't know what to do. But I mean, all we know for now is that they're planted in Kursk and they're digging their feet in. And what they do beyond that, who the fuck knows? That's going to be the story that's going to be told in the coming weeks.
And so, I mean, the Ukraine essentially active when this thing, well, as of, you also
don't know if the Polish are going to get involved.
Well, again, that's the question. But I think with so far in 2.5 years, NATO has stayed out of it. And I don't see them jumping in unless this becomes a 2-on-1. If Belarus does go into Ukraine, I think Poland will jump in and invade Ukraine immediately. Or I'm not sorry, Ukraine. They're going to jump into Belarus immediately. That's going to kick some shit off. If that happens, if the Belarusians go into Ukraine, that gives the Polish all they need to go, nope, fuck this, we're taking you down. And I think they'll do it on their own. I don't think they'll even ask fucking permission to go and do that. They're just going to do it and then be like, oh, sorry, because they've been itching for a fight. And I'm not saying it to be insulting to the Ukrainians, because I think that the Ukrainians at this point, they know this. I'm not saying that they don't know this, but what I'm saying is since this fucking has been going on, I've been very adamant about the numbers game. And the Ukrainians have now in 2.5 years lost to the point where the amount of numbers that they've lost is now beginning to negatively affect the outcome of what this war is going to be. And I've been saying there's a number. The Russians have a number of guys that they can throw at this, that once you hit the number, it's over. It doesn't matter what happens. It doesn't matter what technology you have, short of nuclear weapons and short of NATO involvement. If it's just the Ukraine with American-made gear and money versus the Russian army, there's a point where numbers are just going to erase anything, and Ukraine won't be able, there's nothing that's going to be able to stop it. Just short of detonating your own nuclear fucking facility or doing some crazy shit like that, right? I'm talking about just on pure conventional, non-nuclear military fucking strategy. There's a number that's going to be hit. And I think we're starting to see that number inch closer as the Russians continue to bolster their forces and the Ukrainians continue losing forces at a rate which they cannot keep up with in terms of replenishment, because their population cannot support it. It's just not possible. The numbers are not there. The numbers don't lie.
Yeah, but it's also been 2.5 years and this thing's still going on, and the Russians have been spanked or have been kept at bay long enough to make it seem as though this army that was so revered or that they were considered a global force is being revealed to be not quite up to snuff.
Right, and even not even the Soviet era, but if you look at Russia, even when the Tsars were around, if you look at Russia generally, historically, in terms of military history, this is how they do things. They fiddle fuck around for 12 to 36 months, and then eventually they don't necessarily get their shit together, but they eventually then have enough people militarily active to just make it not matter. And this is basically right in line with that. It's been 2.5 years. We're coming up on the 3-year mark. What next? I think was April. And I think that there's going to be a capitulation of Ukraine or a direct involvement from NATO or a NATO country to assist the Ukraine before this 3-year mark, before April. I think that's either the Russians are either going to just take it, all of Ukraine, or someone's going to jump in and help. And I think the higher likelihood is that Poland will likely jump in and help. And as we inch closer to that, I mean, we're dropping fucking signs of this. Granted, we've got this whole other conflict going on in the Middle East now that we're preparing for and we've been moving towards. And before I transition into the Middle East, did you have anything else to add about the Ukraine situation?
No, I think this is something it's probably going to be going on as long as it needs to, and maybe we'll fucking see the Ukraine continue to expand its incursion to even being something that might look advantageous to them, and maybe they won't have to, maybe this won't even escalate to a fucking regional conflict in fucking Europe. I hope it doesn't, but so far they've been holding their own, and unless the story tells otherwise, they're still doing their dirt, so fuck them.
Oh yeah, listen, I mean fuck the Russians. I mean, I'm just analyzing this from a pure, unbiased, situation, but throwing my bias in, yeah, fuck the Russians. I mean, listen, I think the Ukrainians they needed to do this. Ukrainians needed to do this. This was necessary. So I just think that,
I mean, I wouldn't even say fuck the Russians. I mean, I think it's just
fuck them.
The government.
Yeah, fuck the Russian government. There we go. That's more accurate.
I mean, we wouldn't even be at fucking odds if, shit. You could see just to bring up briefly the Olympics, man. We're capable of being fucking civil with one another when it comes to sporting events. Why can't we just do that all together? Like, and I don't fucking get that shit. I understand that it's human nature that we just fight over things, especially when it comes to resources, but it could be civil discourse. I mean, shit, it happened at the Olympics. Obviously, there was that photo that was taken between the South Koreans and North Koreans for whatever, I think it was fucking ping pong or some shit, if I'm not mistaken. Or maybe it might have been something else. It might have been badminton. But nonetheless, it is evident we're capable of achieving world peace, and especially if it was that minute thing of the Olympics. But as far as like the Ukraine and Russia thing, unless fucking Russia proves otherwise, the Ukrainians still continue to push onwards. So what's the next fucking thing?
Well, we go into the Middle East now, and essentially, again, Iran has been blueballing everybody about this whole fucking clapping back at Israel. I will say, it is kind of like it's. I'm not going to fucking feel bad for the Israelis whenever this happens. If it happens and it's bad, I'm not going to really feel bad for them because they're literally partying in the streets every day and like taunting Iran to do something or Iran to do something, right? Like there's so many videos there. Oh, we're not afraid. Look, we're not living in fear. You're right. You're not living in fear of this impending attack or whatever's supposed to happen, right? But when or if it happens, if it's bad, you guys were dicking around partying all fucking the last 3 weeks.
I think it's more of a thing about, well, at least for this population, their people have seen worse or has seen
Yeah,
worse.
sure.
So this whole thing happened. Sure, like, will this escalate? Fuck it. I mean, what can you do? You live your life, and you had this looming thing. The Cold War, it was the exact same thing. What do you fucking do? You're not gonna fucking just stay at home and yeah.
But what I'm saying is, the reason that they're able to do that is because we have 2 fucking aircraft carrier strike groups right in the area, ready to fucking go. If we didn't have that there, if we didn't have all of a shit ton of assets in the area to defend them, I think they wouldn't be partying in the streets. They wouldn't be dicking around and they'd be like, oh shit, this could happen at any moment. We just need to keep our heads on a swivel and fucking just, let's just wait until it happens. Everybody, go about your lives as best you can. But hey, whenever this happens, we got to be ready for it. And now there's all this talk that, because today on Thursday, the 15th, they've come out and said essentially that there's these talks that are happening now between Israel and Palestine or Hamas or whoever, and I think they're in Qatar or some shit like that.
Hamas,
and
the non-threatening end.
Yeah, because I think that they're trying to put together a deal before and I think that's what the Iranians are maybe holding off on. I think they're waiting just to see, hey, okay, because the Iranians have said, if you get a peace deal in Gaza and you end it, we won't fucking strike Israel. They're giving them an out. They're giving them the out to say, hey, man, like, we won't do shit about you killing this fucking guy in our country and all the guys you've killed, because Israel also, since that has happened and they've been waiting for this Iranian attack, they continue to kill Iranian military personnel in Syria and Lebanon and airstriking the fuck out of them. So I'm not saying they need to dial it back or whatever, but what I'm saying is Iran is like, hey, we don't want to do this. Please don't make us fucking do this, because Iran knows what's up. They know that they will be fucked if they do something to the Israelis and it's bad. Like, if they do something that's bad and people get killed or major things get destroyed in Israel as a result of whatever it is that they do, they know they're fucked, because we have prepositioned all of these assets now in the Middle East to not just conduct defensive operations, but listen, you have 2 aircraft carrier strike groups. That's major offensive capability to bring down essentially an entire government. And we've done, and the crazy part is we've done it before. We've utilized 2 aircraft carrier strike groups to take down essentially the semblance of government that the Taliban had in Afghanistan. And we did it just a couple years later to take down the Saddam Hussein Iraqi fucking government, which was a legitimate government system, or a legitimate government, I guess you could say, as like being, it wasn't just a bunch of fucking assholes, like they were a legitimate, recognized like government, right? So we have experience doing it. And I think the Iranians are like, okay, guys, please make a deal. Because I also know that, or I think that if the Iranians want to be the kind of like the big dog in the Middle East, you can't let this go unanswered. Like, you can't just be like, oh, turn the other cheek against the Israelis. You're going to have to do something. And so I think they're giving them an out by saying, hey, if you guys make a deal, because tomorrow I think is like the last day. Friday's like the last day of this like summit to make this like final peace talk happen. And both Hamas and Israel essentially today, also I think John Kirby is the fucking guy who's the ambassador
for the U.S.
For the U.S. or he's some
for Israel itself.
No, I don't think he's for Israel. I think he's for God damn it, I had it here earlier. I think he's for us. He's one of our guys who's not an ambassador, but he's like he's
Foreign
part of the
affairs?
negotiation. Yeah, he's like part of the negotiations. And what's his name? The dude who has the Secretary of State. Let me get his name real quick. He came out and said, Anthony Blinken, he basically came out and said, like, yeah, we don't foresee a deal happening in the next couple of days.
So it's all performative.
It's performative to give it a shot, like you said. Like, it's just like, okay, let's try it. And if it doesn't work, well, all right, Iran, ball's in your court.
Yeah.
Couldn't come to a deal. You gave them the out. They didn't want to fucking do it. So now, what do you want to do? And so, again, who knows when the fuck this is actually going to happen or if it's going to happen. But I would surmise potentially this could have been the reason why we still haven't seen, because these talks, I think, have been continually going on. And I think this one in Qatar was already set up a couple, 2-3 weeks ago, perhaps. And so I think that they were just like, okay, let's get our shit in place. Let's get everything ready to do whatever we're going to do. We'll let it get to this date. We'll see what this happens with these things. We'll throw out this bullshit and say, hey, if you come to an agreement and you fucking end it, the war in fucking Gaza, we'll back off. We'll call it square. We'll say, hey, you know what? You're not killing Muslims anymore. We'll allow it. We'll let you guys. You killed this dude here. All right. You let us know that you had guys in the government. Now we purged them all. Cool. Now we're just going to crack down on everybody, and there's going to be no, like, Mossad's going to have a tough time getting back into the Iranian government after this. So they'll just call it square. Hey, man, we'll let it ride. But it doesn't seem like that's going to happen. So again, they're going to have to make a choice. Are they going to do it? Who knows? I know that they know that we're going to strike back, because we've been very clear about saying when all the, I watched a press conference with not the Joint Chiefs of Staff, but it was like the press representative of like the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and they were talking about, basically, he's like an Air Force general, and they kept asking him like, oh, if Iran attacks and it's like bad, are you ruling out offensive capability against the Iranian government in Iran? And he said, oh, obviously we're not going to talk about posturing and strategic responses, but if you use common sense and essentially put together what we have in the Middle East, the assets that we currently have there, and you look at that and then just realize that nothing has been ruled out, but nothing has been like ruled in, I guess. So it was a very vague way to say, yeah, man, like, that's on the table. Nothing's off the table, but nothing's on the table right now. But just look at what we have there, and you can figure it out from there, what we could do if we wanted to. Just saying. So I think we've been very much signaling to the Iranian government, hey, we're ready to go in offense now. We got our, and again, I think the Iranians fucked up by not taking advantage of clapping back quickly, because all it's done is given us the time to put a second aircraft carrier strike group there, another fucking ballistic missile submarine, much more naval assets than we had previously. So
it also doesn't look for the Iranians, whatever they followed up with within a time span would have looked justified. Now it just looks fucking random, or it looks malicious.
Right. Which, again, that's just going to cause things to further escalate, because the Israelis are like, fuck, we don't care. You come attack us, we're going to fuck with you. Like, that's it. Like, we're going to respond back and strike in Iran or in Iran. So, I don't know. I mean, we'll see. I am getting fucking tired of this, and I just want it to happen already. Either happen or come out and be like, yeah, we're not doing it. We changed our minds. Never mind. We're not going to do it.
I think it's going to go very much the same way with Ukraine and fucking Russia, that I don't even know what the total number of people within Hamas for the militia portion, what number of that people exist for that.
Yeah.
But the fact that they're doing still this much damage or provoked Israel that much, that this is still going on between Hamas and Israel, throwing in Iran for the mix. Then you had Kurt Angle.
You had Kurt Angle in the mix, yeah.
Then you fucking add Kurt Angle to the mix, man. It just feels like a chess match that is just inching its way to maybe something, or maybe it fucking doesn't.
Yeah, and also this is another thing it is somewhat concerning, when you look at, and again, I'm not trying to be alarmist, but when you look at, okay, we have had introduced into Congress a bill to authorize the president essentially to go to war with Iran to prevent them from attaining or increasing their nuclear weapons supply, right? So we have that already that came out right at the beginning of August. And then now here 2 weeks later, there's these reports coming out from leaks and insiders, which who knows if they're fucking true or not. But even if they're not true, the narrative is already being set up that Iran has nuclear weapons. Because these leaks are now saying that the estimates are that Iran has 8 to 9 nuclear weapons. And what they're saying is that's why that they wanted, which, I mean, listen, it makes sense if you think about it logically. That's why they wanted those Iskander missile systems from fucking Russia, because those are capable of carrying nuclear warheads. Now, who knows? I don't know if fucking Iran has shit like that. I have no fucking clue.
Who cares?
And who cares? But
Schrodinger's cat,
right.
The George W. special. I don't care if there's fucking nukes. We're invading Iraq.
That's what I'm saying. I don't care if there's nukes. We're gonna say they have them, and we're just gonna go in anyways.
Yeah.
And like that's what I'm saying is I think that's why everything's being pre-positioned is because regardless of what Iran does, I think we're just gonna go do some shit to them anyways. Is kind of what I think this is gonna go towards. And hell, if Iran does have nuclear weapons, I wouldn't put it past them to fucking use them. If you're going out, the only reason Saddam Hussein didn't use nuclear weapons on us when we invaded, or didn't use them like to nuke U.S. forces coming in, is because he never fucking had them to begin with. So if they did actually have them, it would be interesting to see what they do if they actually use them or not. But
it's just gonna be it's gonna be Pakistan and India. They're gonna be at the borders. It's everybody fucking.
They're gonna be doing that dancing.
Don't do it. Don't stick the fucking your toe over the line. I'm like, you fucking did, you little piece of shit.
Oh yeah.
And then the fucking DMZ zone with South Korea. You motherfucker. You cross this line, I'll fucking kill you. And then nothing happens.
Yeah. That's basically what it's amounting to now, it seems like. China and Taiwan, same thing. We're going to make you part of us again. No, the fuck you're not. And then it's just nothing.
Yeah, another nothing burger.
Giant nothing burgers.
Get ready for part 9 of the nothing burger.
That's what I'm going to start calling this, the CUP Nothing Burger series. That's what it's going to be called.
Yeah.
Well, that was a delicious nothing burger. Wow, so filling, so great. Anyways, all right, well, that's about it. Do you got anything else to add? Nope. All right, cool. Well, anyways, go to GameRageMagazine.com. You can hear all of our wonderful podcasts, such as Anime Syndicate, and hear us talk about mermaids getting lungs fingered. And you can go to GameRageMagazine.com. Instagram and TikTok at Game Rage Magazine, Twitter/X at Game Rage Mag, YouTube, Game Rage Magazine. Also, go to All Gas No Trash Official, follow Adam, go listen to All Gas No Trash, go listen to the Anime Syndicate, go listen to all other shit. That'll do it for us. We'll catch you guys on the next one. Because, again, clearly the world's not ending, and this big nothing burger will just continue to get larger and larger. And the doomers and doomcoomers will fucking just be edged until eternity.
Was the latest episode of the Central Unintelligence Podcast. Don't forget, subscribe and like on Instagram and TikTok at Game Rage Magazine. We're also on Twitter/X at Game Rage Mag. Also our website, www.GameRageMagazine.com.